This podcast is Entel enhanced. To see pictures, articles and links of what's being discussed, download the Entel app.
Hello, welcome to the BiG Scuba Show.
Hey guys, my name is Samantha Howlett. I'm a coral reef ecologist, just finished doing my PhD at Lancaster, and I'm here talking to Gemma and Ian about coral reef surveys and tiger sharks.
So here we are, once again.
Welcome back to the BiG Scuba Podcast. We are your hosts, Gemma and Ian. Before we get cracking with today's episode, we just want to make sure you have hit that follow button or the subscribe button, depending on what platform you are listening on. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts and you enjoy what you're going to hear today, we would really appreciate it if you can leave a review and a 5-star rating. So now that's out of the way, we just want to say welcome and thank you for all tuning in, and now it's time to dive into today's episode.
Hello everyone, welcome back to the BiG Scuba Podcast. Thanks for joining us once again. This is episode 127, Jen.
Yeah, we are getting through them, aren't we?
Yep. Thanks for downloading this episode, and we're actually gone onto YouTube as well.
Well,
we're having a go on YouTube, aren't we?
Obviously recording outside, which we've not done for a while.
It's a beautiful day.
Beautiful.
Yeah, why not? And so we thought we'll try a stream on YouTube. So if you have a look later, maybe you've already seen it, and but anyway, have a look on YouTube. That'll be on there on our channel.
Yes, this is the little intro before we talk to our guest, and you'll be able to listen to the guest.
A secret. We often do these, don't we, as part of the episode. When we talk about what we've been up to. And if you're new to the BiG Scuba channel, thanks for downloading, and thanks for joining us. If you're wondering what it's all about, we talk about diving and things underwater, what we've been up to, and we have guests on, like we've got for this episode, about what they've been doing and what they're, usually they've got some news or they've been doing
what they've been up
fun.
To. Yeah.
Sometimes you'll know about them. There'll be people who are very well known, and sometimes they're just people like us who actually just like diving. Yeah,
and you don't have to be a diver to listen to this podcast channel. No. There's always something that you can take away from it, whether it's marine conservation or litter picking. Yeah. Just something to make you more aware of the watery world.
So this one we've got Samantha Howlett, who's been on before. She was on but over a year ago.
Yeah, September 2021.
Yeah. So she's back to talk to us about what she's been up to. We've been diving in the Farne Islands, which we have talk about that. And we've also been kayaking as well.
We had a great day yesterday.
Norfolk, which we'll have a little chat about that and tell you about how you can do something similar as well.
Yep. Okay.
There's a lot of people into kayaking these days as well. We're trying to cover everything, don't we?
Yeah, and we're just making the most of the UK sunshine.
Yeah. Do you want to just show everybody our happy bottle?
Yep. So we've got our refreshments here.
They're one of the companies that we work with, and we like our happy bottles.
Yep. So happy bottles, and they've got a flip lid and an easy drinking.
If you're looking for a flask or something to keep drinks cold, they come in groovy colours. Go to happybottle.com and use promo code
BiG Scuba, and you get 20% off.
There we go.
Definitely worth doing. So, and this is a 500 ml.
Christmas presents and birthday presents.
Yep, and perfect for children as well. If you want to keep your children hydrated, you've got these jazzy colours. They come in like yellows, blues, oranges, pinks.
I've got a black one, but I haven't got mine here at the moment.
Yep. So happy bottles.
In sand and everything from yesterday. You're more organised than me. Alrighty. So we're going to talk about the Farnes and what we've been up to, because we haven't recorded since we've been back.
No, this is a new episode. So we went to the Farne Islands. What date did we go?
Let's backtrack. Where's the Farne Islands?
Farne Islands,
for people who don't know,
are in northeast England on the east coast.
Yeah.
Or not far from the Scottish border, and it's a collection of kind of rocky islands, really. They're owned, and they're very famous for bird life.
Yeah.
And were famous.
Full of puffins.
Yeah, famous in the past for getting lots of shipwrecks. So quite a dangerous area.
It's about 260 shipwrecks on there, and I think the last ship was wrecked there in the early 80s, and that got salvaged. That's no longer there, but there is a lot of wrecks. I mean, we saw a couple, didn't we?
Yeah, and it's very famous for Grace Darling, who was the first woman lifeboat person. Yeah, so she did a lot, amazing rescue. So there's a great museum up
Actually,
there.
it's quite an amazing story about her, how she done that, or how
Yeah.
they both done it, because it was her
Yeah.
dad as well.
Yeah,
Got
yeah.
her into it, weren't they?
Yeah.
And definitely Google her and look her story up.
Yeah, so look up northeast England. It's Northumberland, and there's lots of lovely castles to look at and an amazing coastline.
Yeah, so you stay in a place called Sea Houses. They've got a good array and very well used to divers and bird watchers and people just want to go and tour the area. But we stayed at Sea Houses, which makes a great base because that's the harbour that you go from.
Yeah, it's got everything there. You know, if you need anything, there's a local supermarket. There's plenty of places to eat, drink. Yeah, lots of variety, and it was really good to see it so busy as well.
Yeah, so this trip was organised with Crystal Sea Scuba in Norwich.
Our local dive centre.
Yeah, and you can find them on scubaforme.co.uk. They've got a range of trips and holidays, and you can book if you want any courses. Paddy, it's a 5-star Paddy dive centre, so look them up. And we dived ourselves on Mara Mahor, which Captain Ron.
Hello, Ron.
That's part of the Sovereign Diving Limited.
Company. Yeah. So, and Crystal Seas, there were a fairly big group of us. So there were 2 boats. So we were on the Sovereign diving
with
one.
Lee Hall.
Yeah.
Fine Diving Services.
Yeah. So we were looked after by a skipper, and he took us to all these.
The skippers are great, and because they've spent like donkey's years out there, and I'm not trying to age Ron, but they've all all the skippers, no matter what dive boat or what company you go with up there, all the skippers have all been out there since youngsters. Dived, nearly all of them have dived the dives.
They know the tides.
Fished them, skippered around them, and they know it, and you feel totally safe.
Yeah.
Totally safe.
Yeah, and they always give you a good dive briefing once you reach the site, and then there's a dive briefing about where you should go and where you shouldn't go, and kind of what you can see.
Yeah, and get a cup of coffee or tea, both are available.
Yeah, make a lovely cup of tea,
dives, which is always really nice after you dive.
Yeah, and we stayed on the boat, so we did a dive, and then we had a surface interval for probably a good hour, hour and a half, and then we'd move to another location, and in that time we'd have a nice cup of tea, and then do the second dive, and then back on the boat, another cup of tea, and then we'd head back to Sea Houses Harbour.
So some of the dives that we've done, they've got some names. We did, not necessarily in this order, Gun Rock, Little Harcar, North Whamsies, North Side Big Harcar, North Stone Long End. Not made up names, but they were all really good dives. And Gun Rock was good. I don't remember doing Gun Rock before.
No, didn't do it the year before.
A few times, and so Gun Rock is literally a rock right in the middle of the channel, away from the Farne Islands, and that's probably about half a kilometre away from the main rocks of the main
so you can see the main island, and
it's a big rock that's where a ship went down, and there's loads of cannons and
real life cannons.
There's some cannonballs and all sorts, all dotted around the rock.
Yeah, and we had the instructions
ship broke up
to jump off the boat, but not to go in a westerly direction, because that would hit a bad main channel. So, but we identified a cannon pretty soon as we dropped down, didn't we?
There was maybe some cannons sticking up. I didn't see any sticking up.
Yeah, but we did a bit of research when we got back, and there's probably about 8 or 9 cannons there. So it's like a little trail. So hopefully we'll do it again.
If you go to the Farnes, definitely asked if you can do. And I tell you, another one I've done in the previous years is actually Blue Caps, and that's another really good dive. But they're all good dives. And the good thing about the Farne Islands is that they're really good if you are a new diver and if you've never dived off a boat before.
Yeah,
it's a great place to get that experience.
Well, that was my first boat diving experience last year when we went to the Farne Islands. So and St Abbs, that was the.
Yeah.
So experiencing, obviously jumping off a boat and then getting back on a boat using a dive lift, which
is good. So it's definitely worth doing. if you haven't, if you're new to diving, or if you can do wreck dives. There is deeper wreck. Some of our dives were like just a few meters, weren't they?
Yes,
really?
yeah.
And,
so I think the deepest we got was 17 meters.
Yeah.
And that was one dive, I think.
But hello to I think his name was Matt, wasn't it? Who come up to us, and he was explaining to us that you're not diving unless you're doing 25 meters.
Oh yeah. Yes.
Which not necessarily agree with that, but hey, each their own. So for the mud dwellers who like going down deep and getting in there,
you can go
you can
deep.
Get depth.
Yeah,
you can.
Yeah.
There's wrecks out there of all sorts of depths, and
we actually saw some divers on another boat, and they had rebreathers.
So that you can. It's a area which kind of
it's got something for everyone.
Something for everybody of all different levels, and but what you're best to do is, if you are looking to go, if you haven't been before, is when you book up, speak to them and say, this is the level of diver I am, this is the type of diver I'd be looking for.
Yeah.
And then the skipper knows who's got on the boat, and whether he's got newbie divers or whether he's got really experienced.
Yeah, and they should ask for your dive certificates and medical forms. Certificates, yes. So, and we've actually had our email to fill in our bits and pieces for our next trip. So
yeah. So it's good. It's all about being safe and being aware.
So, best bits of the Farne Islands?
I think we saw one of these really big what's the name? Jellyfishes. And I can't remember what it's called. It's the brown one. Lion's mane.
Mm-hmm.
And we were on one of the dives, and we just come around the corner, and in the not particularly well lit. It was quite dark, wasn't it? Quite a bit gloomy.
It was the viz wasn't 100.
And it just hung there. It just in between the kelp, and it looked really eerie.
It was almost like a top hat, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was big. It was like the size of a small bin. Wasn't it?
Yeah,
big. It was quite a big one, and it just like dangling. I said to you, go and have a look.
I go, no.
Go and have a look.
Because I know it's got lots of long tentacles.
Yeah, you didn't want to go and have a look. We kind of kept back from it.
Yeah, but we also saw
that was awesome.
One from above the water. We went to St Abbs Harbour, which is in Scotland, just an hour up the coast, and we saw one there, and it was just it was definitely just floating and moving in the harbour.
That's amazing. I find jellyfish quite amazing, really, to see.
Other jellyfish we saw are moon jellyfish, so they've got they're quite distinctive, and I think we saw some compass jellyfish as well. But it was lovely to see see so much marine life.
If you like your nudibranch, a lot of divers do. There's all
little creatures, little critters.
Yeah, all low manner of little critters going around. Hermit crabs.
Oh, we saw lots of crabs and lobsters, didn't we? Yeah, and we saw quite a few blue lobsters, which are particularly rare, but we saw more than one, didn't we?
Yeah. I think all the ones.
I think they were all blue. Yeah. So crabs, we saw starfish, amazing colour seaweed or sponges. Yeah. Fish, we saw wrasse. Yeah.
Big shoal of
mackerel. That was awesome. Shoal. Yeah.
And they were jumping out the water, weren't they?
And that's my first experience of being within a shoal of fish.
Big shoal like that.
And that's in the UK.
And they were all decent size as well.
Yeah, yeah. And, again, UK diving, there is so much to see. I've not dived abroad yet, but I'm quite happy with what I'm seeing in the UK.
There's something great about UK diving. Everywhere's got good diving. We spoke to people in America, got great diving. From North Carolina, and around there's Florida, you name it. Red Sea, as granted, warm waters, clear viz, guaranteed virtually, and lots of pretty fish. But UK offers cold water diving generally, apart from the summer, and you can be at 2 meters. We've done this. We've been in the water with seals, puffins, all sorts.
All this life around us.
Crabs and lobsters are all scurrying around as well, and you think, well, how much more do you want?
Yeah, no, it really, as soon as you get off the boat, you think, wow, it's just there
is. And so if you haven't been there, it's worth putting that on your to-do list.
Yeah, bucket list for UK diving.
Maybe,
yeah,
is get up there and definitely seek it out. And we go up there with our paddleboards as well.
Yes,
because it's like all dive sites, especially at the sea, they can, if there's the wrong current, wrong wind gets up.
Yeah, if it gets a bit windy.
Call it. We've had that in previous years. And it's good we take paddleboards up there because there's some great places up there where you can get out there with paddleboards as well.
Lovely sandy beaches. So, if we did get blown out diving, then we've got something else to get out on the water.
Yeah.
So, but water temperature was quite
Cold
chilly.
this time. Yeah. Previous years, it's been about sort of like 15, 16. And last year, I was in my semi-dry suit.
Yes, but
and I was snug as a bug in that.
And a rug.
This year, it was max temperature was 12 degrees, and it was actually not all that warm out the water either.
No, and it did feel cold. I think
I was in my snug 03.
Yeah, and I was in my Hydra fourth element with thermals underneath. But I think we both felt the cold under the water at various points.
Yeah, it was quite chilly. It was quite chilly.
Yeah, and I think there was one we did jump in at one point, and I really felt cold on my face.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it was quite chilly this time,
Yeah.
and so I don't know why that is. So maybe current from somewhere.
Yeah, but the water temperatures, I mean, that's obviously northeast England, but they're definitely warmer here, aren't they?
They are also, people need to be aware as well, is which is slightly different from being diving on the south, is that it's more salty up there. So you actually need more weight to get under than you do on the south part of the country.
So how many extra kilos do you have out of fresh water into salt water?
I add on 2 extra kilos.
And so do I, yeah.
For that. I could probably get away with a bit less if I really wanted to, but I've normally just put on 2, and that's just been fine.
For the sake, because they were quite shallow dives as well, so maybe
They
a bit
are,
more weight.
Some of them, and you've only got to take a big breath or something like that, and with waves and whatever, you could go up.
It happened to me, didn't it?
If you're not, if you're not on your A game, or if you're not just, get it wrong, it can take you up.
Yeah, quite easily. So, but so you were in your 03 suit, and I was fourth element dry suit. So
we're up in September. I will take my semi-dry and see what happens.
Yeah, I'm going to take my 03 dry suit this time. Yeah,
good. They're good suits. So
and give it a go. So we'll be back there in September, and then we have been. Well, I did a quick.
I should mention I had a problem with my regs on one of the dives.
You did, yeah. We had to abort our dive.
On one of them, we didn't even get hardly in it.
No,
that's really weird. On the first dive, my regs were absolutely fine. Second dive, leaked like a sieve.
Yeah,
and where it leaked was actually on where the fibres of the hose goes into the side of my regs.
Yeah, so there was no fixing it on the boat.
No, the whole thing had actual joining had gone.
Yeah,
which they've done a fair few dives, to be fair, and I think they've just done wear and tear with it.
Yeah, so that was obviously aborted dive, but we carried on snorkeling.
I probably could have carried on because we weren't going that deep, and I did have a 15-litre tank. But
we had to be safe, so we snorkeled instead, didn't we?
Yeah,
so
that's just as good.
Yeah,
that's all right. That was good.
Yeah. So, in talking of snorkeling, I did a quick snorkel in the week. I did up in North Norfolk.
Oh yes, the Sheringham Trail.
Yeah, so we did it on high tide, so visibility wasn't great, but it was good just to get the experience in and give it a go. We saw some crabs. Yeah. So, but we'll definitely do it again.
How long was you in the water for?
Probably about half an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you had a 5mm wetsuit on.
And they got markers up there, haven't they, for people who don't know the area?
Yeah. There's a buoy out there. So I think it's probably best to do it on a low tide.
Okay.
And then you've got a little walk out and then a shorter swim.
Right.
But even, we didn't see anything out fairly deep, but we came back into shore and we saw some crabs and plenty of sea life on the.
We should probably say that for people who don't know where Sheringham is, that it's on the Norfolk coast.
Norfolk coast. Yeah. So, but if you Google Sheringham Chalk Reef Snorkel Trail, you'll be wowed.
Yeah. Yeah, it's worth doing, and just, again, not very deep,
No.
and for people who, are new to it all, and you can have great fun.
Yeah, and again, it's obviously a short window because of the visibility disappears.
It does, unfortunately, on our coast. So now's the time to get out there and enjoy it.
Like we did yesterday.
Yeah. So yesterday we went to Blakeney Point. And you find Blakeney Point by going out from Morstan Keys, one of the places.
That was where we parked and launched our kayaks from, and then took a paddle out to Blakeney Point.
Yeah, so it's right on the top of North Norfolk. Beautiful part of the world.
Lovely.
National Trust. But there's a big but. This is the first time I've been up there where there's been jet skis.
It was quite shocking, wasn't it? It was for somewhere so remote and wild.
I'm being an old fart about all this, right? I'm not. I've been on jet skis. I've used them. Great fun, right? In the sea, or somewhere where there's not wildlife to the point. But when there's 100 seals in the water, and you've got other crafts, so that you've got us with the kayaks, you've got sailing boats. And then you've got idiots and I have to say that word.
Well, I think we can classify them as that
because there's no thought about anyone else. No. Going full pelt, and and I don't know what speed they were doing, but they must have been doing 50, 60, if not more.
They literally had the throttle fully open and were just gunning it up the channel.
Up and down the channel, and you're like, hang on a minute, you've got seals in the water. They don't know any different.
And they don't swim at 50 miles.
And you're just flying up and down where all these seals are.
And the noise pollution.
Well, that's one thing, but I just kind of think, that's not the place to open up a jet ski.
No, it was quite disappointing to see because
And I've not seen that before. No. Not there, no.
No, we've done that paddle before, and we've always had it. There's been sailing boats and a few like fishing boats, motorboats, but nothing like this.
I've used them on Halen Island, Braden Water, abroad. There's places where you can really have fun with a jet ski. Tow a water skier, open them up, the taps, see how fast it goes, the lot, have fun. Great fun. I love a jet ski.
We've got dedicated places. We've got the Norfolk Broads.
But
inland water, there are dedicated places.
I can't believe that is the best place to go and use them.
No, so if anybody's got any comments or any
Have your thoughts, yeah.
Yes, yeah. So, but yeah, we were a little bit shocked.
Was a bit, yeah. And the speedboats, there's speedboats up. There's loads of speedboats, and generally, most of the people who've got speedboats are pretty aware.
And they were considerate to us when they slowed down when they saw the kayaks, so we didn't have any like major wash, but yeah.
Yeah, I was a bit surprised by that, to be honest.
Yeah. But anyway, we'll see what happens next time.
Yeah.
We'll get some windows, tide windows and weather windows to get back up there.
Yeah, so look up Google Maps, good place to start. If you don't know where Blakeney Point is, and look up Morstan, and it's always worth a trip.
We saw the wreck of the Yordis up there.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Blakeney Point. So it is in the sand, but that sunk in 1916.
Wow.
So,
wow. Yeah.
But yeah, it's good to see a bit of history, and yeah, I think there's plenty of wrecks in North Norfolk.
Yeah, we've done one in the past, which is just further round to the west on Scolt Head Island, which is just a little bit further round where you go out from Brancaster, but you've got to be really careful. It's a place where you can't just walk to. That's a place because the tide comes in really, really fast, faster than you can walk. So, but there's a wreck out there, and you can actually walk around it at low tide, which we've done. HMS Vina, which was used Second World War for target practice.
Yeah, so you've certainly got a lot of history up there.
There is, yeah. So if you're in the area and you're holidaying and you think what to do, there's some places there to go and look at.
Right then.
Alrighty, well, we better get Samantha on and have a chat.
Yeah, so Samantha Howlett, we have spoken to Samantha before, but she's now, she's a doctor now, isn't she?
Yeah, Dr. Howlett.
Yes. So, yeah, she tells us all about her experiences in the Maldives, wasn't it?
Yeah.
She went, and about the amazing diving life.
Yeah. She does. So, and she's done some fascinating works in the past when we spoke to her, and this is more good stuff.
Yeah. So this is 127 episodes, and Samantha Howlett.
Awesome. Welcome to the podcast, and Gemma, Sam, who are with us, and we're going to talk about everything that you want to chat about. So, what have you been up to since the last time you was with us on the podcast?
Well, I actually finished my PhD since I spoke to you guys.
Excellent.
Huge relief.
Congratulations.
Thank you. So you have to call me Dr. Howlett now.
Wow.
Dr. Howlett.
Yeah, no, it's just great because that was like over 4 years worth of work, and to finally have it all done and then do my defense where you have a panel that asks you questions about all your research, which was very daunting. So I got all that done, and it was just great to have that finished and look back on everything that I've done. And then I found a new job.
Wow.
So taking a little bit of a change. So it's less going to be doing research, and it's not specifically with coral reefs. So I have a job with a company that does monitoring of wildlife and biodiversity using genetic approaches. So like environmental DNA. So,
okay.
So basically, if you have like a lake and you have all the different animals moving around, they like skin cells or like mucus or pee, like traces of themselves in the water. And you can collect that water and you can use fancy machines to analyze it and looking for all the different types of DNA. And it will say, oh, an otter was here, or you have like gar, and you can get so much data through this approach. And it's really cool. So I did it as part of my PhD. I did a chapter where I did eDNA, and you get so much data, but only academics use this. And
right.
The company is now basically trying to approach all these different organizations that monitor for wildlife and say, hey, are you interested in using this as part of your monitoring program? So my title is Business Development Manager. So I'm helping to get them business and getting like clientele and saying, hey, like, look at this amazing technology we have. You really.
So the technology of the collecting the DNA.
So it's basically doing genetic analysis is kind of like a black box. People like don't understand it. It's super complicated, which is why only academics use it. So the company now breaks it down into like to make it more simplified. So they say, this is what we can do. This is the sort of data we'll get for you, and we'll work with you to help you interpret that. So it's still quite complicated.
Yeah.
But they do a lot of work in the background to kind of like guide the research and the project to fit it to the different to whatever the project needs are. So
wow, that sounds amazing.
It was a random job that came out of nowhere.
You've done a lot of diving in your past, all different parts of the world and what have you. So are you still using diving in the work as part of that?
Unfortunately not, but one of the things that will be great is the company now has like a marine kind of like it looks like they've split into terrestrial and marine research. They've someone who's a coral reef ecologist there. So hopefully like my knowledge will help kind of bring in or apply to new projects in that sort of area. So that would be great.
Is this like an emerging technology that is now coming out?
So eDNA has been around for about like 10 years or more.
But the collection and, is it now it's a technology that is now emerging of collecting the DNA through the water system?
No, none of that is new. It's just like making it known to and making it more commercialized and stuff. So yeah, it's crazy. Like to have this technology, you get so much information, but people just don't really understand it and know how to apply it. So yeah, no, I'm really excited.
I bet.
To be
so what
getting all these different projects in.
What does E stand for in the DNA bit?
Environmental.
Right. Okay.
Any DNA that's left in the environment. So, you can collect soil, you can collect water, any of these sorts of things.
Right.
So if you're in a, what sort of environment would this be there? Are we talking, because first off, are we talking abroad? Or are we talking UK based?
So a lot of the projects that they've had so far are based in Europe. One of the really cool projects they did, I believe it was in Sweden, and there's lakes where for 30 years, to monitor the fish population, people would go out with nets and lines and record what species they would catch.
Yeah.
So Nature Metrics went and they did one trip of collecting water samples. So you could collect multiple samples for replication and stuff. And they found more species through doing this approach than they had detected in 30 years of fishing.
Yeah.
It's incredible how much information you can get from that.
Right. Okay. But if you go into, I'm just trying to work out how this works. So if you go into a piece of water and you get, I don't know, what we get, a little tiny sort of sample amount of water, how do you then break that water down to then think, right, I can tell there's a pike been in this water, or there's a perch, because there must be thousands of DNA in a piece of water. So how do you split all that up?
So it can get quite complicated. So first of all, you'll take I think it's around 5 liters of water, what they normally do, and they push it through a filter. So all of that material is collected on the filter, and then that's what you analyze. And you'll have some of the DNA breaks down over time, which is why Jurassic Park probably won't happen, because
can't say that
long.
You can't say that.
So if it's been a few days, and depending on the conditions, the DNA will break down. So hence why you have to do regular sampling for it to be fresh, and for it to be, intact, so that you can pick up all of the code and stuff. And then when you analyze that, you have what you call different markers, gene markers. So you target different areas to identify. And depending on the markers you use, sometimes it's easier to identify mammals versus invertebrates or fish or something. So there's all these different things that you consider when you analyze it. And then afterwards you look at the quality of how that read comes out, and you might be okay, well, we're quite certain that this is real, but then there might be some where there's not quite full match, and so you're not sure, and so there's a lot of filtering and going through afterwards.
When they're planning, we're just going through this real heat wave and drought, and I was reading something the other day that they're looking at different places for potential future reservoirs, and looking at changing the planning permission, how they could do that. And I suppose if some council somewhere said, right, this valley we could potentially flood in years to come and reserve water, would they then come to someone like yourself and with this ability to capture water and then use that to see what fish and other what other animals are using that water, or what area?
Yeah, for sure. So that's quite a good example. So if you establish a new reservoir, at the beginning you're going to have limited species, and you'll probably only have the species that you've stocked. Then over time, there will be migration and new species will come in. So by sampling over the years, you can then show, now we have species appearing that we did before, and things like that. And that even applies to not even species that live permanently in the water, so otters and things like that, or beaver maybe. It's perfect for that sort of thing.
And doesn't the cleaning process that that in modern water networks, I'm talking about how trying to get the word, sewage gets broken down and cleaned and processed through the system, and then that water comes back into the system. And that's virtually the same anywhere, especially in Europe. They're virtually all the same. So would that not affect any of the DNA that's in the water?
So treated water would be affected. One of the things that they use to clean water and for our drinking water is chlorine. That breaks down DNA as well. So and bleach and things like that. All these sorts of things that process would affect it. But yeah, I mean, so one of the ways that you can use eDNA is to even just look at the microbial communities. And I'm pretty sure they would test the post-treated water to see what the microbes would be and if there would be any harmful bacteria. So you can test specifically for the microbial communities. And I would hope that there's someone out there monitoring.
Well, I'm sure there is. Yeah, I'm sure there is.
Yeah. Oh, well, it's really good. Yeah, you've got some kind of job to go to after all this hard work.
Yeah, and a really interesting one. So it just came out of nowhere. On LinkedIn, someone said, hey, random job offer. And yeah, I'm glad it came through because it sounds like a really interesting company to work for.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So you've also been out in the Maldives and got lots to tell us about that as well, haven't you?
Yeah, so I kind of postponed submitting my PhD for a month because I got the offer to go out and survey in the Maldives. And I couldn't really say no.
That's cool.
It's fine. PhD got finished anyway. And yes, I would love to talk to you about the island that I went to because it was very, very special. Just the marine life that I saw there was incredible. And I've just finished writing like a summary of the results I did. So basically, there's this island in southern Maldives. I call it Fuvahmulah because that's how it's spelt, but the locals pronounce it Formula. So yeah. And not that long ago, there really wasn't any tourism there. So it was there, and they would fish for tuna. And it was just a small like fishing community there.
Right.
And I think a couple of years ago, someone who was a social media influencer went and did some diving or swimming and just had this footage of them swimming with all of these tiger sharks. And it went viral, basically. And so since then, the tourism has just exploded.
Wow.
Like there's multiple dive shops now establishing themselves and capitalizing on this. And it's like the Wild West. There's no regulation. There's lots of people trying to get a stake in this like equity of the wildlife and the tourism there. But the dive shop that I went to work for is owned by local Maldivian people. And they see this development going on and they see like how much it's growing. And they're just really worried about the sustainability for the future. So I was talking to the guys that work there, and where they do the dives with the tiger sharks is the harbour. So traditionally, the fishermen would come back with their catch. They'd come in the harbour, they clean the catch, and then they throw the leftovers over the side of the boat, and the sharks just cruise around and have a nice, easy meal and clean up.
All right.
This has been going on for decades. And the only thing that's changed now is they're putting divers in the harbour.
More people, yeah.
And apparently in the early days, there was no sort of system, and boatloads of people would just be piling into this harbour, and you've got like sharks everywhere, people everywhere. And they were like, this just can't go on. We need to structure this. So now they're like, and I think the main push really came from the local people as well. So now they have a rota. So each dive shop gets a certain time each day and they change. And that's when your company is allowed to go with your guests to go. So it's a lot more regulated, but the local people would like to have more regulation. So for example, there's no limits or restrictions on how many people you can take there.
Right.
Big dive shops get the cruise ships come by, and apparently they've had like 25 people plus just like in this little harbour, and they think that's fine because the more people they have at one time, the more money they make.
Yeah.
But it's not sustainable. So the local, and also all of these people coming in puts pressure on the ecosystem.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I saw, it was really funny actually. I was sitting having a drink with one of the guys in the evening, and he was like, how many hotels have you seen being built on this island? I was like, there's quite a few hotels being built. How many people can stay in each of these hotels? Okay, well, probably like a good sort of 50, 100 or whatever. And it's like, the only thing you go to do there is diving. There's only one kind of beach, and they're not thinking about the future. They're just like, okay, people want to come here, let's build, let's develop. But the harbour and the port is not going to be able to sustain that number of people to come diving, and all a bit crazy at the moment. So one of the things that I did, which Inna asked me to do, is to do a baseline survey of the reef health. So people go there because they want to see the giant pelagic manta ray, they want to see thresher sharks, they want to see tiger sharks, they want to see the whale sharks, they want to see the big stuff. But the reef is also amazing as well. But with all these impacts of growing tourism, no idea what's going to happen in the future. So the idea was to do some surveys, get some baseline data, look at what we have, and then that lets us monitor for the future. So if you do regular monitoring, you can see if you're losing biodiversity, you can see if like the corals are changing. And so then you can look at management. But one of the other things I think the locals want to do is basically like looking at the data I collected, and I compared it to the IUCN report for all of Maldives. And Fuvahmulah has like the highest coral cover, the highest coral diversity, like really big communities of these big parrotfish. Like the reef is crazy healthy, is amazing. So the southern part of the island is a UNESCO biosphere reserve.
Right.
Because it's acknowledged because of all these big pelagic species. But what Inna and the other local people would like to do is kind of designate the entire island. Because like,
what's the chances of that happening?
Well, there's a lot of pushback, because the more you restrict business opportunities and
tourism and
Maldives. You still can have business though, can't you? The environment and business can work together for the good, well, for the greater good of them both. But it's a case of if it suddenly becomes too balanced towards business and expanding, what loses out is the environment, i.e. sharks and the reef, and then that's all, that's one thing. And I suppose when you start getting more and more people turning up, you got sharks in the middle of all this, and they're not change. They don't know they got to change behaviour, and they've got to move away. That's not a good recipe, is it?
It's not. But the problem is everyone's just thinking about the moment and how much money they can make right now. And like you say, it's boom and bust. Like you can make money on the asset of the community and the reef that you have now.
Yeah.
You put too much pressure, then it's not going to be there in the future. And like Inna has this amazing vision for the island to do it in the right way, so that the reef will be there for like generations to come, and it will continuously be like this amazing, beautiful place.
Yeah.
And but that means that you have to restrict at some level. And so for example, Galapagos, the island, there are like it's the whole area is a marine park, and you pay a park fee which goes towards managing that area when you visit. And I do believe there's restriction to numbers annually, but it's a big area. So something like that would be great.
Sounds like a perfect idea.
Making that case to the government.
Yeah. See, I never get this, and you see it on a small scale, just even in this country where, and somebody shared actually, I think just today, people they'll go to a nice park and say, right, let's go there. We'll go there on holiday because that's a nice place to go. It's a nice place to visit. And then when they go there, do they take the litter away with them, or do they just chuck it out the window? I never understand that mentality of where a lot of humans, not saying all, but a lot, will go somewhere where it's really nice, then kind of conquer it and take over, and we'll build these great big hotels and other great places. And then people go, well, actually, that's not as nice there now because it looks like all the other places.
Yeah.
Mm.
You know, and I think the point about what you raised about Galapagos is brilliant, because maybe that's the way it should go. If you're going to reserve a landscape, and also, you know, have a great partnership between the environment, you know, these people, the locals, that they're looking for an income, and instead of hunting the sharks and the mantas and everything else, they can actually show people what great parts and what great animals they are, and rather than hunting them that. So it, you know, it can work if managed.
Yeah, and it's great. Like I think Ian is an amazing person. He's got a very good vision for the island. So Maldives as an island chain, they struggle with fresh water for local people to drink. So the source of fresh water is bottled water being shipped in. And like Ina's funny. He's like, yeah, but you still have to recycle all the plastic, and plastic is not actually easily recycled. He's like, we need to have water filtration. We need to have a better way so that we can have water to drink rather than having to rely on this. And so he's trying to push for that, push for more solar and things like that. So just ways to minimize the pressure on the environment and stuff, all these different aspects. So that it's definitely but I was just very impressed with his forward thinking of like, okay, well, we have to act now to really make sure that what we have is going to be there in the future. But
that must be awesome to be involved in a project like that.
I was very lucky to get invited, and it came completely out of the blue. The way that I got invited to work on this project was a girl who I knew from French Polynesia. So when I was doing my PhD, she was a research assistant for someone out there. Yeah. Really lovely girl. And she went on holiday to visit the islands, and she got talking to Ina after diving there and his ideas. And they mentioned about doing coral reef surveys. And she just said, hey, Sam, we've got this project. Are you interested? And I was like, well, technically, I have time. I don't have a job right now where I have to book a month's holiday. Like it means I delay my PhD a little bit, but I can come. So that was literally a couple of months before I actually went out. It was
wow.
How it came out.
It's all about people, isn't it? And connections and who you meet. Yeah, where it all leads.
Yeah, you never know like who you bump into, like what it could lead to. But no, the diving out there was amazing. I saw so many tiger sharks. It was crazy. And the interesting thing for me is I'd never done like a proper dive with a shark dive like that. So I've done dives where you go out and there's a boat on the reef, or it's scented, and then the sharks come to the area, but they're not right in front of you like they are in the harbour. And I was really worried about, like, I was quite nervous actually, because they're big sharks.
So what we talk? Are we talking so like 2 meter sharks?
So there were full-grown female tiger sharks.
Oh wow!
The females get larger. I'm trying to think. Is it like around 4 meters?
Yeah, they get quite big, don't they? Yeah.
Yeah. And but actually, I was really impressed with how the guys ran the dives. So they give you a very thorough briefing beforehand of exactly what you're going to be doing, how you should behave at all times.
Right.
And so the way the dive runs is you have the harbour, and at the edge of the harbour, it kind of slopes down.
Yeah.
Everyone swims over and they sit like next to the ledge, peering into the harbour.
What sort of depth are we talking?
So it's about 5 meters, 7 meters.
Okay.
You've got boats going overhead, coming in and out of the harbour.
Oh, flip.
And one of the things the guys say in the dive briefing, which I think is awesome, is they're like, the boats are far more dangerous than the sharks.
Yeah, I bet.
So you watch your buoyancy, stay down low, and stay still. And yeah, so you either kneel down on the sand or you're behind this ledge. And the guys are in the harbour, and the boat goes over and they drop some tuna heads. And quickly the guides will take the tuna head and then bury it under some rocks before the sharks get the chance to smell and come in. And so what the sharks do is they can smell the food, and they just kind of cruise around the harbour looking, and then they'll...
Where is it? They're going, where is it? It's here somewhere.
Yeah. And like the first dive I did, there was 3 tiger sharks just kind of cruising around, and really wasn't scared at all because they are so slow and chilled. Like they just literally like just cruising, just really gently cruising. There were a few small male tiger sharks that were like zipping all over the place when I was there. They were more unnerving because you don't know where they are.
Right.
The big ones tend to move quite slowly, and it was just incredible just to watch these animals just like swimming around and doing their thing. And after a few minutes, like, I wasn't scared at all. I was just in absolute awe.
Yeah.
And, you know, you have the guides positioned you, so they're constantly watching behind you to see what the sharks are doing. So they were in control of the situation the whole time. And then, yeah, at the end of your hour or whatever, then you just swim away from the harbour and then you out towards the boat. And it was really, yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah.
It was really cool. And then I've been there when there was like more like 12 sharks plus, just literally all around you, like huge full shark.
Was your heart pounding as you're dropping down, thinking, ooh, first time with sharks?
Yeah. But actually, so the first time I dived, the first few days I dived with the group and did the tiger shark. So it was to get used to how to behave around the sharks and just kind of get comfortable.
Right.
When I did my coral reef surveys, I went off with just my dive buddy. So it quickly went from a situation where you're one of like 10 individuals in a group to just 2 of you, 5, and then there's tiger sharks all around you. That was a very different experience. And when you've got your head in the reef looking at coral, you forget. And then you suddenly look up and you're like, oh my God, there's a shark, like right next to me. And in the end, me and my buddy who was surveying, we were like, right, we need a system. One person will survey down the tape and the other one will be a shark spotter.
Yeah.
Sharks know when you're not looking and they get really curious.
Really?
It's really unnerving because they'll come right in to check you out. So we had to have one person spotting to keep an eye out just to make sure. And yeah, that was a bit worrying.
They're very inquisitive, aren't they? How they want to know, you know, what are they doing? what are they doing there?
Yeah, they were just literally coming in to see what we were doing and checking us out. And to be honest, as soon as you turn around and look at them, they're like, ugh, and then swim away. So it was fine, but you just don't want to risk the situation when
they're wild animals, aren't they? That's the whole thing. They're wild animals, and we're in their world, and we've got to give them respect.
Yeah, for sure. The only time my heart really was going was at the end of a survey, which was literally in front of the harbour, because we tried to survey all around the island. So we were near the area where all the sharks come to get the food. And we swam out to do our safety stop because you have to swim away from the reef so the boat can come and pick you up.
Right.
My buddy were back to back, tank to tank, with this tiger shark circling us.
No way.
Stop. And yeah, it was like, you could see it looking at you, you know, literally making eye contact with you. And we were like, we can see you, buddy. Like, we were horizontal in the water, making ourselves look big, just nice and calm. And eventually, after he circled us for a while, took off. But he was quite big and he was very curious. That was the only time where I felt nervous.
Wow.
And I think when you're away from the reef, when you're down low and you're on the reef, you feel a lot more secure than when you're out in open water and a shark is circling you as well.
Well, isn't it? Well, probably this will be totally wrong, I'm sure, but do they not have a very good eyesight?
So I believe, from what I understand, that bull sharks are supposed, they say that bull sharks do, but bull sharks swim in fresh water as well as salt water, which is why they can go up streams. And I think the idea for that comes from they're in low visibility, and so they can't see then. I know that when a shark, I think most sharks, when they bite, they've got a lens that comes over their eye.
Yeah.
Point of opening their mouth to bite, they can't see.
Yeah.
I know that's the thing, but in terms of their general quality of vision, I'm not actually sure.
Because I don't know whether they get, whether they're not sure what we are in the water, especially for free diving. And because, you know, you see a lot of these wetsuits, they're very dark, aren't they? And sometimes they got patterns, and they're
Fish-like, aren't they?
Fish-like.
Yeah.
And you think, well, in poor viz or something, is it not sure? It wouldn't, if we were pretty, easy to spot, they'd probably be thinking, whoa, it's a human, I'm going to just keep out of the way of them.
Yeah, that does not look like my normal food.
Yeah, but I'm just wondering if they are curious and hungry, could they get you a bit confused with something else, in the water, like a large seal or something like that,
Well, you'd see and the guides would sort of tell me that the sharks go through different stages of curiosity. So they'll swim and visually check you out, and then they'll come and kind of like bump you with their nose. So, and they would do that with the rocks as well. When they're looking for their food, they'd bump, and then sort of like the final stage was, okay, well, I'll have a little bite and see what this is.
Yeah.
So, obviously, if you're a dive guide, you don't want to get to the third stage, but
No.
But no, they teach you how to redirect the sharks if they do really approach you and go to bump you. I never had to do that, but they basically say to put the hand on top of the nose and push it down and away.
Yeah.
And I've seen the guides do that occasionally, and the sharks seem to just move on with no problems.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how confident I would be to.
Well, you do what you do, don't you? At the time.
Yeah. So what about any other marine life? Did you see any other like big pelagic fish?
So I was cursed on this dive trip, and I don't know if anyone else has had the curse. So my main role was to survey the reef.
Right.
The big stuff is you go to like the drop off in deep water. So I did all the reef dives, but I didn't always go on the pelagic dives because I didn't want to take space from customers if they wanted to dive. So if it was quiet, I go along. Every single dive I went on, they didn't really see anything.
Oh no.
I got so excited because the one thing I wanted to see was a thresher.
Yeah.
They see them quite commonly, and they've got these amazing footage. They get very regularly amazing footage of these threshers and stuff. And so I was like, I'm there for a month. My chances have to be pretty high. No. And people would come back on the dives that I hadn't been on. Oh yeah, we saw a thresher. And I was just like, oh God, it's I'm that person, aren't I?
Is there a particular reason why you want to see a thresher shark then?
Just from my understanding, I don't know anywhere else in the world where you regularly see them. And they really, especially at the time of year when I was there, they're just there hanging out. So most people saw them on dives, and they're just really cool looking sharks as well. They've got like great big eyes that make them like puppy dogs, and then their long tails and things. So yeah, I really wanted to see one, but it wasn't to be. Well,
it's always next time.
Yeah, hopefully next time. But they've had a really good season. So they also get the giant oceanic manta rays. So not the reef mantas, the really big ones. They get and seen footage of that as well since I was there. And people saw whale sharks and things. But for me, the pelagic marine life evaded me that trip. But around the island, I saw quite a few sharks. So obviously we saw the tiger sharks and things. And then you have like silver tip sharks and reef sharks and things like that were sort of hanging out. But mostly for me, it was just looking at like the really cool fish diversity.
Yeah.
There's no like local fisheries for parrotfish and things like that.
Yeah.
So I was like fully geeking out at like
yeah, because you know your parrotfish, don't you?
Yeah, I was just like, oh my God, there's like parrotfish and like Captain Parrotfish and all of these different ones, just like, and so many of them. Like, it was really cool. So the reef fish was awesome. And it was really fun to survey the corals again. It was a while since I'd done it, so I had to really brush up on it. And a lot of the coral surveying I did in Seychelles, and you'd have corals that like you learn by pictures, but after being there for 2 years, I still hadn't seen them. And then I was out in Fuvahmulah and I was like, oh, that's what that looks like. Like,
cool.
I saw them. So Yeah, it was. I geeked out hard. It was really cool.
All right, here's a geeky question for you then. Do you remember any of the sounds coming from the reef?
Well, yeah, you had Tim on, didn't you, talking about the sounds?
We did. So, did you remember any of the sounds?
I mean, I'm not a specialist, so I can't pick out specific sounds. I remember hearing.
Did you stop and pause and think, wow, let's have a listen?
I'm afraid I didn't. I didn't take the time to stop and hear the music. We had a very ambitious survey protocol, so we wanted to collect as much data as possible. And so I was very much focused on what I had to do.
But there is something as divers we should do more of. We last episode we had Jessica Mitchell on, and she was talking to us about diving with the rebreather. Okay. And I was very conscious when we were diving at the farms last weekend, how much noise comes from open circuits and the effect that have on, you try and get a nice photo of a seal, don't you? And the farms is great for the seals, but as soon as you breathe out, it does, and you can see their reaction of them bubbles, and you hear, and that noise does ruin it.
So the thresher sharks apparently are very sensitive to being spooked by things, and I think that's a perfect example of where that would be great, because any sort of noise would set them off, and so if you have a breather and you had just chilling on the reef.
Yeah, amazing.
Life that would just come up to you.
On another boat, there was some people diving, and they would have been in shallow water, to be fair, as most of the dives are, on the Farne Islands. If you're just bobbing about looking at seals, most of it's within about 5 meters, isn't it?
Yeah.
And there were a couple of rebreathers.
Yeah, we saw a couple of guys.
And you think, well, isn't that a bit OTT? But then when you actually think about it, if you want decent photos or video work, you probably would want to be on a rebreather, even if it's just really shallow water, or if you're not going to free dive it, you're going to do away with them bubbles.
I don't know how mainstream rebreathers are these days. It seems to be becoming a lot more common, but it's
getting that way. Yeah, it's
not. Doesn't seem to be like you can just walk up to a dive shop and be like, "Hey, I want to dive."
No, I don't know enough about them, be honest. And but I kind of do get it. The reasons why. If you're really into, and I think it'd be amazing to see wildlife behaving as they are and not by the reaction of our input, if that makes sense. Because do some of the sharks, do some of the other animals, even in the UK, are we just seeing how they behave once they see us blowing out bubbles and stuff? And unless you do a lot of free diving and snorkeling, you probably won't see that unless you're on a rebreather.
Yeah, you'd have to have good breath control to have a proper free dive like that as well.
Yeah.
There was a couple when I was in French Polynesia that had their own rebreather set up, and they would go diving, and they would have pictures of the dolphins that they would see really clearly. But the dolphins were very nervous, so I know in some parts of the world you can go on a boat and you can get in the water and they'll swim with you. That absolutely wasn't the case in Moorea. If you wanted to get near to them, you basically had to shut your engine off and go really slowly. And then as soon as they were spooked so easily,
really?
You could dive and see them was incredible. And like you're right, it probably is because of the rebreather and like not having the bubbles and just commanding a completely different presence, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I think there's something I want to do a bit more is actually in my dives, especially in the sea, is actually pause and just listen and use my ears a bit more rather than, because I it's something that we don't do enough of is listen to the sound. And when we had Tim on, it was fascinating hearing those sounds and him talking about how he recorded it. You think, wow, that is something we should do more of.
I love how sorry, Gemma.
No, I was going to say it's planned for the Farne Islands next time then.
Yeah. You should take him with you and get him to break down all the sounds, because when he was describing some of the sounds and then he was like, that's what that is. It was like, oh, I know. I remember hearing that sound in a dive. Oh, cool. So it's like, that's a shrimp, or that grunting noise is a fish or whatever. Like,
yeah,
cool.
He was on about fish farting and all sorts. So.
Right, fish farting. I missed that.
Potentially, because GoPros capture sound quite well, but potentially as a simple test, you could set a GoPro up somewhere and then go back and collect it after about 5 minutes. So it wouldn't be picking up your bubbles and your sounds, would it? Like that.
Well, I did that for part of my PhD. Was I put cameras out to film the fish grazing, so I could count how many bites they took and work out the grazing rates and stuff. And you can hear in the background all the crackling and of the shrimps and things. So yeah, I mean, I should maybe be like, hey, Tim, do you want some free data?
That must be quite fascinating to work that out.
Yeah, but I don't know the quality of the sounds that they need to analyze it, figure out what it is. But no, certainly as a diver, if you just want to like listen back to your footage, and then you suddenly are like, hang on a minute, there's a lot of sound going on there, and rather than just your bubbles every now and then coming out.
Well, let's give us all something to think about, really, for this.
Yeah, well, it sounds an amazing experience, out there. So, and hopefully you'll be able to go back.
Well, the hope is, but so one of the things that Inna wants to do is empower the local people. So again, like he has Humpty there, who's one of the first female DMs in Maldives. And, she's great. She's been organizing like Women's Week, when it's like to women out there, women in scuba, and really kind of like representing women, but also like women that wear the hijab and things. So representing a lot of minorities. Like, scuba diving is for everyone. And so what I would ultimately love to do is to maybe go back there for a couple of weeks and actually train Humpty or someone local, and then to do the monitoring. That would be awesome, because rather than it being what people call parachute science, which is where people from like Western countries come in and go away, it would be much more beneficial to put the power in the hands of the people that live there, and it's their resource. So if I have time to go and run like a workshop or whatever to do some training, that would be great. I know she's learning reefs. Oh God, what's Reef Check? She's learning Reef Check so that they can do that. Reef Check is not super comprehensive, but it covers a lot of the main kind of like ways to monitor reef diversity.
Yeah.
And with her outreach and her social media influence, she's one of the perfect people, isn't she? Because she's just got that capture and kind of can influence all the people out there as well.
Yeah, I was just going to drop in to the conversation that we had Humpty, so Hamna Hussain, if anyone want to look her up, in October last year, episode 94. And that is another really good episode to download and listen to for people who now listen to this. Go back to that as well.
With her enthusiasm, which is replicated by you as well. It's just it must be an amazing place to dive.
Yeah, it really is, and I really encourage lots of people to go there. And really go with pelagic divers, so the dive shop that I was with, because these are the guys that are really pushing for it to be sustainable. And like, their hashtag is like dive with locals and support like the local economy and things. So, and like I said, rather than thinking about profits, they're thinking about doing what's right. So they want to have like everything done in the right way. So
how refreshing is that?
Yeah. I mean, the business is booming, like Inna said, like especially with social media, like the sharks of Fuvahmulah, the tiger sharks, is just the footage they get is incredible, and they have so many followers, which inspire to go there. But yeah, they just want to make sure now that it's not too crazy, and that we protect what's there. So go with pelagic divers.
Pelagic divers. Okay. Are they on? I presume they're on like Instagram or.
Follow them on Instagram when you want to go instantly, because Yeah, some of the footage they got was incredible.
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah, no, it's great advert for the place, and the conservation of the place as well.
Yeah. No, I'm just very keen to talk about it because it's very refreshing to have people to be so motivated to really protect. You can tell because it comes from the local Maldivian people, this drive.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it's got to come from them, isn't it? That's it's right for getting support from other parts of the world, but they're the ones that's their back gardens, their back
Yeah.
door, isn't it? So
It's their
it should come
home.
from them. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, incredible sunsets. It was wonderful to go to. And the other thing is, like, it's not super developed, so you still feel like you're on this like beautiful little paradise island in the middle of nowhere, and
But they've got to keep that
everywhere. Yeah. So hopefully the magic of Fuvahmulah will stay.
Yeah.
No, well, it's really great, and great to hear about it, and hopefully a lot more people will follow the journey of the island as well, and the conservation of it.
Yeah, we want to say thank you for coming on and coming back on and giving us this, and always come back on and in the future to talk about other things that you're doing, because I know you're always involved in different things, aren't you? Such as this, so that'd be really good.
Yeah, and maybe there'll be some projects to do with eDNA and my new job that we'll be doing. So fingers crossed.
Best of luck in your new job as well.
Yeah, thank you very much, guys.
Yeah,
it was great to see you.
Yeah,
that's great. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks, Sam.
Thank you very much.
Really good.
No worries.
Excellent.
Hopefully see you soon.
Now that does wrap up today's episode of the BiG Scuba Podcast. But if you want to hear more from the podcast, make sure you hit that subscribe or follow button depending on what platform you are listening on. That way you will never miss an episode from us. But if you are listening on Apple Podcasts and did enjoy what you heard today, we would really appreciate it if you head to the show page to leave a 5-star rating and review. It really does help us. If you do, please take a screenshot of that review and send it to us on Instagram, and we'll give you a shout out to say a big thank you. If you have any questions for us or anything that has been mentioned in today's episode, be sure to reach out to us on any of our social media platforms or send us an email. The links are in the show notes. We will get back to you no matter what. If you have made it to this point in the episode, we both want to say a big thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next episode.